Residents of Flint, Michigan will file 2 new class action lawsuits against the state's Governor Rick Snyder. The lawsuit claims state officials ignored federal law when they failed to treat drinking water for corrosion, leading to dangerously high levels of lead. An attorney representing several of the city's residents spoke a short time ago.
We have filed 3 lawsuits on behalf of Flint residents, water users, families, human beings, children who've been injured. And the 3 lawsuits are different, each different in its own way. The first is an action in federal court under the United States Constitution. And that action says that despite all these laws that talk about immunity, this government official is immune, that government official is immune, the governor is immune, the major public officials are immune. Despite all of that, none of them can violate the Constitution of the United States. That's what that lawsuit says. And we seek damages on behalf of a class of people, which means everybody will get a chance to have their damages evaluated separately and independently, but at the same time, everybody is in the same position. They have all been victimized by these unconstitutional actions of these public officials. That's what that lawsuit is about.
And the state's governor admits the water crisis is a disaster on par with Hurricane Katrina. Angry protesters have called for the governor to resign, but so far he refuses to step down.
And joining us to talk about all this is criminal defense attorney Randy Zelin. Hey, Randy.
Hi.
So it's going to be very, very difficult for the residents of Flint, Michigan to prove negligence when it comes to the governor of the state, is it not?
Well, you actually have to divide that, because what happens is, and what we may be watching unfold is a human tragedy. And you talk about the tension between, on the one hand, you want your government officials not to have to worry about being sued. Otherwise, who would want to take office? But you've got to balance that against it doesn't give you a license to do whatever the hell you want. So the point is, on the one hand, it may be relatively easy for these citizens to establish the negligence. Clearly, there seems to be a chain of evidence to show that the drinking water out of the lake was okay, the drinking water out of the river wasn't, the pipes weren't okay. And it should be easy enough to show that there were dangerous levels of all kinds of yuck in the Flint River that people knew or should have known about. Now, can you go after the state officials? Because the law is designed to protect, once again, our elected government officials from being sued personally. And you have to show that that government official violated a clearly established law, so much so that there was a prior decision making it clear. It is a very, very difficult hurdle when it comes to suing the government. That's the dividing line. Easy to prove negligence, not so easy to go after a government official individually.
So how will the residents prove that the state didn't do the necessary testing before switching the water supply?
Well, it really comes down to proving a negative, and as difficult sometimes as that sounds, it's really not so difficult. First of all, there's going to be the ability to show that tests have been done and tests were done to show that the water in the Flint River was yucky, and that's a legal term of art, if you will. That's easy. It's going to probably be easy to show that more should have been done and wasn't. In other words, just simply asking in discovery, show me the latest test results. Well, if you don't have any, we have the earlier test results. Why didn't you update them before you decided to switch over the drinking water? Then you've got the ability to depose government officials to say, okay, what have you done? Oh, you didn't do anything? Well, that seems to be a bit of a problem. So it's not as difficult as one might think.
Randy, what about this State Department investigation into 10 people who died of Legionnaire's disease? Will they be able to use that in the class action lawsuit, that investigation?
They're sure as hell going to try, because when you can start bringing up issues of death, that really creates difficulty for a defendant. But remember the definition of evidence. Evidence has to be relevant. In order for evidence to be relevant, it's got to tend to prove that which you are trying to prove, or if you're trying to defeat something, it's got to tend to disprove that which you're trying to defeat. So merely saying somebody died of Legionnaire's disease, that doesn't necessarily mean that the evidence is going to be relevant. You're going to have to show the connection between the Legionnaire's disease and the drinking water.
Right. So Snyder says he wants to stay in office. Of course, there are calls for him to resign. He says he wants to fix the problem. He's expected to address it at the State of the State address tonight. Do you think his political career is over?
I hesitate because it's so easy to say yes, but that could be such an unfair character assassination if it turns out that the governor didn't know and it wouldn't have been reasonable necessarily for him to know, and he really wants to try to fix the problem. So I think it's so early and so unfair that knee-jerk reactions start calling for people's heads, particularly when the Democrats do it because the governor is a Republican. I think we need to take a deep breath. Let's focus in on the solution right now before we start chopping people's heads off, particularly those who might be in a position of power to do something about it. That, to me, is the more reasoned, the more sensitive, and I think the more intelligent approach, rather than just saying, you're done.
Right.
Great. Who are we going to bring in, and what are they going to do about it?
It is hard to believe, though, this is something going on in the United States,
Exactly.
right? It seems like something you'd hear about in a third world country, that the water isn't safe to drink.
And when you hear about these toddlers, pediatricians saying that these toddlers, the water that they were taking, that they were drinking, the lead levels had tripled, it's mind-boggling.
Studies have shown that lead can have a horrifying effect on an adult, even more of a horrifying effect on a child. It is beyond at least my ability to describe how in 2016, in 2015, in 2014, something like this could have happened, how it could have been allowed to get started, how it could have been allowed to continue, and these people of Flint, Michigan, what they have been subjected to.
And not just this, just in the last 30 or 40 years, Flint.
Yeah.
It's been tough.
But again, technology, the advances that we have made in our ability to protect our citizens from something as simple as drinking water, you said it.
Yeah.
This is something you expect to see in a third world country, and it shouldn't happen there.
Yeah.
How it happens here, it is mind-boggling.
Randy Zelin, thank you so much.
Thank you.